Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. If you wish, we may just recite together. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet tam svakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana hirdantostoya badrani vidunoti suhritsatam nashtaprayeshvapadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavad Yuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavitnik Naishtiki Grantara Srimad Bhavatam Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhavatam 1:15:10 1:15:10 We may not get to 11. We'll focus on 10 primarily. It's okay with you all. Everyone has it? Patnyastavadimaka klipta mahabhisheka Shlagishta charu kabaram kitave sabhayam Sprishtam vikirya padayo patita shumukya Yastat striyo kritaha tesha vimukta kesha. On time restraints, right? Okay. Okay. Patnyastavaadimaka klipta mahabhisheka. Shlagishta charu kabaram kitave sabayam. Sprishtam vikirya padayo patitashu mukya. Yastat striyo kritaha tesha vimukta kesha. Patnyastavaadimaka klipta mahabhisheka. Shlagishta charu kabaram kitave sabayam. Sprishtam vikiriya padayo patitashu mukya. Yastat striyo kritaha tesha vimukta kesha. One chanter, please. Patnyastavadmika kaklipta mahabhisheka. Vagishta charu kabaram kitave sabayam. Rishtam vikedya padayo patitashu mukya. Word meaning. Patnya, of the wife. Tava, your. Adimaka, during the great sacrificial ceremony. Glipta, dressed. Mahabhisheka, greatly sanctified. Shlagishta, thus glorified. Charu, beautiful. Kabaram, clustered hair. Kitave, by the miscreants. Sabayam, in the great assembly. Sprishtam, being caught. Vikirya, being loosened. Padayo, on the feet. Patita ashramukyaha, of the one who fell down with tears in the eyes. Yaha, he, tat, there, striya, wives, akrita, became, ata isha, bereft of husbands, vimukta keshaha, loosened hair. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. It was he only who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants who dared upon open the cluster of your queen's hair, which had been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. At that time, she fell down at the feet of Lord Krishna with tears in her eyes. Purport. Queen Draupadi had a beautiful bunch of hair which was sanctified in the ceremonial function of Rajasuya Yajna. But when she was lost in a bed, Dushasana touched her glorified hair to insult her. Draupadi then fell down at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna decided that all the wives of Dushasana and company should have their hair loosened as a result of the battle of Kurukshetra. Thus, after the battle of Kurukshetra, after all the sons and grandsons of Dhritarashtra died in battle, all the wives of the family were obliged to loosen their hair as widows. In other words, all the wives of the Kuru family became widows because of Dushasana's insulting a great devotee of the Lord. The Lord can tolerate insults upon himself by any miscreant because the Father tolerates even insults from the Son. But he never tolerates insults upon his devotees. By insulting a great soul, one has to forego all the results of pious acts and benedictions also. Umagnatimirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gauda Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As per instruction, we'll read together sometimes till 8:10 and then have 5 minutes of question, answer, reflection. It's okay. Okay. Everyone.
I want to stop by 8:15 regularly Bhagavatam class. 25 minutes of class and 5 minutes of Q&A. But yeah, for you it will help. Yeah, but in general I want to have it so that we have a fixed time. And on Sundays I want to read for 15 minutes.
Oh, on
Sunday. On Sunday. No, even for other days, because everybody has to leave. 8:15 is a good time to stop. But Sunday I want to read for 15 minutes from Prabhupada, day by day with Prabhupada, it will learn to something leading together. Okay.
Settled. Sanctioned and sanctified. Sanctioned and then sanctified. We'll focus mainly on divine and demoniac here. It's clearly stated who's the devotee and who's not a devotee, so to say, or not yet devotee. And we'll begin by defining a few terms also that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned here in the purport. That way we can start from a good foundation. One is the Rajasuya Yajna. As Srila Prabhupada has written, means one who performs that sacrifice in an assembly where all the princes of the world are invited and they select him as the emperor of the world. That's Srila Prabhupada's definition. One who performs a sacrifice in an assembly where the princes are of the world, all of them are invited, and then one is selected as an emperor. Now let's define here in the last sentence of the purport. Pious and benediction. According to etymology, and insult, because insult's also important. So 3 words we'll define here. Latin insultus means to scoff. Scoff means to ridicule or mock someone or something. Insilere, also Latin, to leap at or upon. Leap at, either physically or mentally. And so here it means to ridicule someone. Now we'll define pious according to etymology. Having or intended to show faith and reverence for the Supreme Being. Latin pius, pious, dutiful, devout, conscientious, religious, faithful to kindred, inspired by friendship, prompted by natural affections. Also related to a Latin word purus, which means pure or clean. Conscientious objectors, probably His Grace Vijay Prabhu knows more about that. They had that during the war. There's conscientious, and means that they're thinking long term, they have a broader vision, so they objected to some wars. There's some history of that. One is who's very conscientious. Now let's define benediction as a noun. Act of speaking well of, invocation of divine blessing. Latin bene and dicere. Bene means well, to do, perform, show favor, or revere. And dicere, to say or speak. This is very close to Spanish as well. In Spanish, bene, and it refers to bien, bien means good or well, and decir, the root verb. Decir means to say something or to speak. So here it's very close also. And in Spanish, the whole word is bendición. So I offer, te ofrece un bendición. Dios te bendiga. May God bless you. Very close in relation here. Now we'll move to divine and demoniac as clearly stated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself in the 16th chapter of the Sri Gita Upanishad, verses 1 through 3. Does anyone want to read it? We can make it interactive. This only the English translation, please.
You sure?
Gita Upanishad.
Okay.
The Holy Gita.
Said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy, and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature.
Hmm.
Will be proper.
Pardon? I've heard the long purport yet. Thank you. We won't get to it. Thank you, though. Let's define quickly here covetousness. Inordinately desirous to obtain and possess, avaricious. Latin cupiditas, passionate desire, eagerness and ambition. Long for or desire. And then let's define compassion. Feeling of sorrow or deep tenderness for one who is suffering or experiencing misfortune. Compasión, literally a suffering with another. It's coming here, late Latin. Come with or together, and pati, to suffer. This reminded me just yesterday at the center in Santa Cruz, and one Mataji came young. She's probably in her 20s. Violet, and we met her on the streets, and she chanted one mantra, and we invited her to the center, and she came an hour early. Like, okay, did you tell her 6? She came at 5. Yeah, and then Jaikanai Prabhu, he we introduce everyone that way they feel welcomed and recognized and so forth. And Jaikanai Prabhu invited her to sit in the front and talk. She was very nervous, you can tell. Said, okay. And she brought one Kali Vigraha with her, Kalima. So she had it just sitting in front of her the whole program. She's like wondering what's going on here. Anyway, she gets up and she starts to speak. My name's Violet. She said, I just came out of the hospital today. She said, 4 days ago, I tried to take my own life. Yeah. I'm bringing this up because of the compassion of to feel actually with one. So you just never know someone's going through. And actually it's a demoniac mindset. You don't, the person in general, the person they're dealing with the mind, and Krishna says karshati. They're just grappling so hard. They don't know how to escape it. Therefore they think that get out of this body and I finish it, but it follows, right? The mind intelligence and the false ego follow one, just as air is carried by, the aroma is carried by air. The true compassion is to actually feel when those things are happening. If someone states that and it's true, which it seemed like it, no reason to think it's false, is to actually feel what those people are going through. And it gives us more impetus to keep doing those kinds of services there also. Now let's, if you so wish, let's go into what Krishna states in the 4th verse. Anyone else? Feel free to read of the demoniac, some of the demoniac qualities. 16:4, Prabhu, yeah.
Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demoniac nature, O son of Pritha.
Thank you. 5 and 6.
The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demoniac qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities.
O son of Pritha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is divine, what's called divine, and the other is demoniac. I've already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me of the demoniac.
Yeah, thank you for that, both of you. There's a number of verses here in succession that Krishna states clearly about how the demoniac operate. We won't spend a lot of time on here just so I understand the contrast. And because I was listening to one Prabhu, Kalakanta Prabhu, His Grace, I met him in India somewhere. Prime Minister of Agriculture and cow protection. Yeah, Kalakanta Prabhu. Brazilian, Portuguese. There's Brazilian, but Portuguese. They call it Brazilian Portuguese. This means that Portuguese had some influence there, obviously. Anyway, what he was saying is that before, in Kali Yuga, it was clear that there was either a divine personality and a demoniac personality. And now, not you all, so there's like myself, we see the divine and demoniac right here. And they're constantly oscillating. And one can observe them by seeing these qualities that Krishna mentions, and also a little descriptions. He says, those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. We discussed this briefly, Kautukana Prabhu and I, and Avanish Prabhu, about good and evil. What is actually good and what is actually evil? Because I met one gentleman on the streets in Santa Cruz previous to that, where he was stating, you think evil comes from God also. He follows the Bible. And he had a PhD, he said, in theology. He brought up this argument that in the Bible it says two things God cannot do. He can't lie, and he can't change his mind. And he was asking me my opinion on it. I told him, well, God can do whatever he wants. They're used to two rasas only. That's as far as the Bible goes, really. They know neutrality, awe and reverence, and they know servitorship. That's it. I friendly, in a respectful way, I told him there are 3 other relationships according to our philosophy that one can engage with God. And in those relationships, it gets really playful, actually. They're called leelas, divine play or pastimes. And during that relationship, if God wants to tell a little lie, he said, I won't enter the battle of Kurukshetra to Bhishma, yet he still did. Is it considered a lie? Broke his promise, right? But for God, everything is summum bonum. He's the highest good. Everything done is done for the benefit of others. It's a benediction, actually. Now, coming back to what Kalakanta Prabhu mentioned, is that actually God favors everyone. Krishna does. The way he gave an example is the rainfall. It falls equally everywhere. However, only the grass or the soil that is ripe and ready, that bears fruit of whatever kind. However, the rock does not. It's just barren. That similarly, however, in that case, still weeds will show up. Have you ever noticed in the garden? Even you drive on the freeway or on a street, you'll still see the weeds grow up. And even I looked it up, there's a purpose for the weeds also. these weeds actually, they're to cover up a barren land quickly. So that is also a function. And these weeds are oftentimes, by His Grace Vaisheshika Maharaj, are aparadas and are anarthas, are offenses and my offenses and unwanted things. Therefore, in order to gain the favor of the Lord, one has to transcend a good, mundane goodness. But that acts as a platform, Srila Prabhupada has said, transcend this ignorance and passion or ambition, material ambition, and come to the level of goodness, material goodness, sattva, and then from there it acts as a jumping point, so to say. Now, how does that happen? Through proper knowledge. Krishna is giving proper knowledge. He says in another verse, which we can read, one of us can read, if you so wish, in 4:3, he specifically says, Sa evayam maya tedya yoga prokta puratanaha bhakto si me saka achati rahasyam hetarutamam. Anyone know this one by heart? Translation English? Or the gist of it, at least, the essence. Sa evayam maya tedya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakacheti rahasyam hetar utamam. The third verse is at least because bhakto, right? Si me saka, friend. Cha also etitas. Iti means.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Is
And rahasyam hitad uttamam.
Krishna is saying that I am going to explain the same yoga which I explained earlier. This is the highest secret because you are my friend and my devotee.
And here Srila Prabhupada states in the purport, there are two classes of men, namely the devotee and the demon. The Lord selected Arjuna as the recipient of this great science owing to his being a devotee of the Lord. But for the demon, it is not possible to understand this great mysterious science. There are a number of editions of this great book of knowledge. Some of them have commentaries by the devotees, and some of them have commentaries by the demons. Commentation by the devotees is real, whereas that of the demons is useless. Arjuna accepts Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Gita following in the footsteps of Arjuna is real devotional service to the cause of this great science. The demonic, however, do not accept Lord Krishna as he is. Instead, they concoct something about Krishna and mislead general readers from the path of Krishna's instructions. Here is a warning about such misleading paths. One should try to follow the disciplic succession from Arjuna and thus be benefited by this great science of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. One real-time example, Vasudeva Prabhu. And he's also reading the autobiography of a yogi. And then he mentioned he has his own philosophy. It's coming from Yoga, Paramahamsa Yogananda only. He also studies he studied the Bhagavad Gita. And they do in parallel with the Bible. That's the Center for Spiritual Enlightenment. And therefore, they cannot, here Srila Prabhupada says, they cannot understand this great science. It's considered not real devotion. General readers, he calls them. It's a warning, the misleading paths. And therefore he recommends simply try to follow Arjuna and one will be benefited. One will be granted a benediction. Bene and dicere, spoke well or given him a wish, a divine wish. You know? I like this We're doing a lot of reading from Srila Prabhupada today because he gives such a beautiful realizations. This is found in Srimad Bhagavatam 185. 185. This is in relationship to the topic at hand with this verse. For Srila Prabhupada states, in the glorious days or before the advent of the age of Kali, the brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. He gives 5 here. 1. The protection of the brahmanas maintains the institution of varna ashrama and ashrama, the most scientific culture for attainment of spiritual life. 2. The protection of cows maintains the most miraculous form of food, i.e., milk for maintaining the finer tissues of the brain for understanding higher aims of life. 3. The protection of women maintains the chastity of society by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. 4. The protection of children gives the human form of life its best chance to prepare the way of liberty from material bondage. Such protection of children begins from the very day of begetting a child by the purificatory process of Garbhadhana Samskar, the beginning of pure life. And 5. The protection of the old men gives them a chance to prepare themselves for better life after death. This complete outlook is based on factors leading to successful humanity as against the civilization of polished cats and dogs. The killing of the above-mentioned innocent creatures is totally forbidden because even by insulting them, one loses one's duration of life. In the age of Kali, they are not properly protected, and therefore the duration of life of the present generation has shortened considerably. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that when the women become unchaste for want of proper protection, there are unwanted children called Varna Sankara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. Dushasana, a brother of Duryodhana, insulted Draupadi, an ideal chaste lady, and therefore the miscreants died untimely. These are some of the stringent laws of the Lord mentioned above. If we remember in His Grace Vijay Prabhu's, one of his recent lectures here, in relation to abortion, right? So many millions upon millions of abortions. There's 200,000 a day. And there's some exceptions. Maybe there's some unconsented interaction there. An individual may not want. There could be some really negative samskars associated with the child, right? In general, it's mostly happening mutually. Here, it's almost 8:10, so this is a short recap. We, together, started with defining a few terms, the Rajasuya, sacrifice to select a prince from all over the world to become emperor. How, if one insults a devotee of the Lord because of demoniac tendencies, they shorten everything good diminishes on account of their own actions. One does not get piety or benedictions from that. To get those things, one must at least become preliminary friend of Krishna. Saka Cheti Bhaktosime. And then Srila Prabhupada highlighted why the importance of these 5 things that I mentioned briefly. That I'll summarize again real quick. Protection of cows, protection of brahmanas, protection of women, protection of children, and protection of old men. These 5 things. At this point, any discussion we can open up. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, Prabhu.
16th chapter of Gita and also from 185. It was very relevant. I like the connection that when we kill any of these or insult any of these 5 sections, then we will see that the life duration is shortened, and we can see in the present society. Prabhupada says that because not we are not protecting these 5, that's why the duration of life is shortened in the present society. I have a question from the Purport Prabhu, and Purport Prabhupada says the Lord can tolerate insults upon himself by any miscreant because the Father tolerates even insults from the Son. So I have heard or read somewhere that somebody who is insulting Krishna, or I mean, there is a negative reaction. Somebody blasphemes God. They have to suffer some sinful reactions because if they are blaspheming. Is that true? So if Krishna doesn't mind, so people can keep blaspheming God. I mean, so would they accrue any sinful reaction or not?
Technically, I don't know. Technically, maybe Vijay Prabhu can comment upon this.
Krishna, just like a devotee, he doesn't feel bad if someone blasphemes him or something. So Krishna also, but actually no, there's a mention where Krishna was being, he was criticized, and Krishna kind of felt a little, uneasy.
It's a little bit.
Yeah. And he doesn't. Yeah, it's a subtle thing. But yeah, just like if you blaspheme the devotee, you blaspheme Krishna. It's bad karma. Just like you're talking about what is good and bad. Good is devotional service to Krishna. Bad is selfish sense gratification. And why do people blaspheme Krishna or devotee? Enviousness. Right. Bad karma. You have to get a reaction. Bad karma.
During the Ratsya sacrifice, Shishupal insults Krishna, so he hurls abuses at Krishna. He tells him that you are not deserving of being the Agra Purush for this. And then he gives a series of 100 insults to Krishna. But Krishna had promised Shishupal's mother that he would not, as long as Shishupal keeps it less than 100, a trot of insults, Krishna would not kill him. So Shishupal went to 99, and then he stopped. Then he again started from 0. He went over 100, but Krishna didn't say anything. But then he was shooting at Krishna, insults, but then he started shooting wide. He started shooting at others present in the assembly. So he started first with Bhishma Dev. He started saying that Bhishma Dev, he remained as a brahmachari, not because of his vow, but because he's important. And such insults he started hurling. Then Krishna got very angry because he insulted his closest devotee, Bhishma Dev. And so he took the Sudarshan Chakra and performed a bloodless dissection of his head from the body, so that there's no blood spill that would make the Ratsya sacrifice inauspicious. So that would be what this verse is saying. So Krishna, the Lord, can tolerate insults upon himself by any miscreant because the Father tolerates even insults from the Son, but he never tolerates insults upon his devotees. So when he started shooting wide and went to Bhishma Dev, that's when Krishna got annoyed and killed him. Because he was willing to forgive the insults to him, even though he went over 100. That's one pastime.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Always so technical. That's why I try to pull some simple practical things. Prabhu gives us this, he just utters out, speaks in Shastra. Yes, Prabhu. No, Prabhu. I mean, a little bit.
And he was and was, he You call him, you're a frog, you know? What do they call him, a frog or something?
Call
Yeah,
them,
so, yeah, Krishna, you know.
mm,
You know,
mm,
this is another pastime.
yeah.
Which Krishna doesn't have false ego, it's all pastime, you know?
Mm,
Not that he thinks that he's some material body,
mm,
he's all pastime to Krishna.
mm. Thank you, Prabhu. Past 8:15. Get the hammer here. Anshakapatrivasya kripasindhevya patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, devotees, for joining online. Vishal Vinod Prabhu and Rahul Triplani Prabhu.